I love it when you call me Big Papa. Greetings, my friends, it's time to take flight in another episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Golden Wind. At the end of the last episode, Bruno Bucciarati and his gang were getting ready to go on an airplane. And anybody who's familiar with the JoJo anime series knows, whenever our characters get on an airplane, shit goes south. Luckily, Joseph Joestar is nowhere to be seen, so they might have an easier time. That is until we got to this episode right here, when Bruno and his boys are going to be doing battle against a parasitic stand which goes by the name of Notorious B.I.G. The best thing about this episode of JoJo, without a shadow of doubt, has got to be the actual setup for it, with Bruno and his gang getting ready to get on an airplane, and Abakio actually being able to use Moody Blues to transform into a pilot so that they can actually make their way to Sardinia. That alone is really awesome, but right as they're about to board the plane, suddenly a mysterious stand user appears from out of nowhere and starts to slowly walk towards them like a serial killer. That is until Mista decides to blast his ass with a couple of bullets from the Sex Pistols, and that's pretty much the end of that battle, except that this character has a very unique stand. A stand which is not activated until the user is killed. Once they get onto the plane and take off, that's when things start getting really weird, like finding severed fingers in a refrigerator, and then Giorno is suddenly attacked by this parasitic stand, which looks like bubbling flesh, which is trying to consume his very body. In the end, Giorno has no choice but to actually remove his arm in order to get rid of this stand, when suddenly it starts attacking everybody, like Narancia and Mista. They theorize that the way it actually attacks people is that it actually goes after things that are moving really erratically. Basically, it's like a T-Rex. If it thinks that something moves, it's gonna go after it. It kind of reminds me of the monster from John Carpenter's The Thing, as it starts to consume everything. What makes the stand extra terrifying is that when it actually does track something that moves, it manages to outspeed it. It actually gets even faster, and the fact that they're actually on a moving plane which is going incredibly fast shows that even if they try to throw this thing out, it's just going to immediately make its way right back into the airplane. And that's when Giorno makes the ultimate sacrifice of having to get rid of both of his arms in the process, which unfortunately leaves him without the ability to use his stand, Golden Experience. Mista's fucked up, Narancia's eating shit, basically half of the team is completely out of commission, and when Bruno tries to retreat with his friends to go to the cockpit to tell Abakio about everything that's going on, Trish is left alone in the plane when suddenly she herself is attacked by this stand, which leads me to believe that this actually is going to be the manifestation of Trish's stand for the very first time in the series. If they didn't already tease it in the intro, I wouldn't know that it was actually going to happen, but this seems kind of like the perfect opportunity to introduce her stand and to show that she's more than just a pretty face. She's actually going to be capable of going into combat and might even become the next big member of Bruno's gang, which I think would be really awesome. The episode ends on a cliffhanger where it looks like one of Giorno's buttons is actually slowly transforming into a brand new hand for himself, which is really convenient as we have to have him be able to use his stand again, and that's when we get that classic to be continued screen ending the episode. So what's the rundown on this episode of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind? I love the fact that we have a stand here that's called Notorious B.I.G. That alone is really funny, but again, the subtitles and the editing of the episode try to make you believe that it's called something else. When Giorno actually says the name of the stand, he calls it Notorious B.I.G, and when you actually see its name written on the walls of the plane, it's called Notorious Chase. But let's face it, this is Biggie Smalls himself, in anime parasitic stand form. Yet again, the creator of the series, Araki, makes it very clear that he loves music of all kinds and loves to name his stands after all types of musicians and songs. And this stand right here is very interesting, if only for the fact that its user is almost immediately killed, and then it's able to completely work on its own. I'd question the logic behind it, but then again, this is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Weird shit happens all the time. While I really love the characters in Golden Wind, and I would dare say that Giorno and his gang are the most interesting protagonists that we've actually seen from the entire JoJo franchise, the scene where Giorno realizes that something's not quite right on the plane and he discovers the severed fingers in the refrigerator, that whole scene bothered me because he made it seem like they were about to be attacked by a stand user, and when he was making these declarations, Mista was getting all pissed off, saying that he was just being paranoid and freaking out. They've been through enough situations at this point where if somebody even has a small suspicion of something weird going on, they should take it seriously. And I don't know what it was, but Mista just really pissed me off in that moment. As for the Notorious B.I.G, it's a pretty interesting stand to say the least. It's basically just a blob of human flesh. It seems to take more form as the episode goes on, but for the most part, it just sort of latches onto things and starts to absorb everything in them. And when it does that, of course, it ends up hurting the user. So there's a lot of violent shit going on in this episode and a lot of spectacle, especially with Giorno actually managing to put his arm outside the window of this plane, having it get severed and completely destroyed. It's really bloody and disgusting, to say the least. But like I said earlier, I think this is sort of like the perfect excuse for Trish to actually bring out her stand for the very first time. I'm not sure what sort of trauma is going to allow her to make it manifest for the very first time, or maybe she's had the ability to use it since the beginning of the series, and now we'll just finally get to see it actually have some use. All I know is I'm very excited to see if that's actually going to happen. But with Bruno and Abacchio and the fact that Giorno's almost certainly going to be getting his hand back very soon, I'm sure they're going to be able to fight back against this thing. The problem is they are flying high in the sky and things can go wrong pretty damn quick. Again, you don't want to fly on an airplane in the JoJo universe. Also, one more thing. The production value of this episode I thought was pretty damn clean, especially the actual animation of Notorious B.I.G. Just the way that it actually moved was incredibly fluid. The fact that it's sort of like this amorphous blob creature, you can tell that they put a lot of love and care into actually like animating it, and it made everything just seem all the more tense and disgusting in this episode. So I would say that this episode is notorious. I'm going to give it a solid 5 out of 5, if only for the fact that the setup for it is so interesting, a brand new type of stand and stand user, and the possibility of Trish actually being able to do something is actually kind of exciting. So yeah, I'm pretty pumped to see what's going to be happening next for Notorious B.I.G. So there it is. That's my thoughts on the episode. I would love to get yours if any of you did watch the episode. Tell me what you thought about it in the comments section below, and what you hope to see from the rest of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind. Thank you all for watching this review. I'll see you all next time, and as always, stay damn, baby.